You ever see someone so drunk on fake power, they bark orders like they're in a courtroom drama, only to collapse when the real law shows up? That's exactly what happened when HOA Karen screamed, "Show me ID!" at my wife, a decorated federal agent, but she didn't know that. What she did next got the attention of the SWAT team. And when they arrived, things flipped so hard Karen nearly passed out on her lawn. It all started on a regular Saturday morning. We had just moved into the neighborhood 2 weeks earlier, me, my wife, and our dog Milo. A nice little two-story in a well-groomed HOA community, where lawns are trimmed like military buzz cuts and everyone pretends to smile a little too. Wide. You know the type. Now my wife, let's call her Donnie, she's not the kind to draw attention. Calm, quiet, confident. The kind of person who can command a room without raising her voice. Why? Because she's seen things. She's been in federal law enforcement for over a decade. But she keeps that part of her life quiet. No bragging. No gear laying around. Just her. And the quiet assurance of someone who's dealt with real chaos, not suburban drama. But HOA Karen didn't know that. We'd been settling in, unpacking boxes, walking the dog, and waving politely to neighbors. Everyone was chill. Until Karen showed up. She stormed over like a storm cloud with a clipboard in one hand and a Starbucks cup in the other. The HOA starter pack. No greeting, no smile. Just, "You can't park here." Danny, cool as ever, said, "Hi, nice to meet you. We're just unloading." Karen cut her off. "I don't care. That's common area. You need a permit." "The driveway? Ours. The curb? Public property." But Karen had crowned herself queen of the cul-de-sac. She whipped out her phone and started taking pictures of Danny's car like she was documenting a crime scene. And that's when she demanded the ID. "Show me your ID. I need to verify who you are and whether you belong here." Danny blinked. "Excuse me?" Karen jabbed a finger toward her face. "You heard me. I don't recognize you. This is a private HOA neighborhood. We don't just let anyone walk around here." I was standing at the door, hearing all this. I started stepping forward, but Donnie gave me a tiny shake of her head, the kind of signal you learn to obey in marriage, and when your spouse is trained to handle threats calmly. She said, "You don't have any authority to demand ID from residents." Karen puffed up. "I'm on the board. I absolutely have that authority." Spoiler, she didn't. Then Karen crossed the line. She stepped up, phone still filming, and grabbed Danny's wrist. "You're going to show me that ID, or I'm calling the police." That was it. Danny didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "Let go of my arm." But Karen kept ranting. "I don't feel safe. You're aggressive. I'm reporting you for assault. Stay right here." Danny backed up, calmly took out her phone, and dialed a number, not 911. A direct line. "Hey, this is Special Agent Daniels. I've got a situation at my residence. Possible impersonation of authority, unlawful contact. Can you send a local unit for assessment?" Karen overheard it and started yelling. "Oh, now you're pretending to be a cop? That's a federal offense. You're going to prison." She was so wrapped up in her own performance. She didn't even see the black SUVs pull up 10 minutes later. But the neighbors did. 4 unmarked vehicles, followed by 2 black and whites from the local department, and then a SWAT van creeping down the street like something out of a hostage movie. The same Karine who wanted someone to do something now looked like she wanted to melt into her lawn. A tall man in tactical gear stepped out and walked straight toward Danny. He saluted. "Agent Daniels, we got your call. Are you okay?" Karen's mouth dropped open. Literally. She looked between Danny and the officer like someone had just rewritten reality. Danny nodded. "I'm fine. This woman detained me without cause, attempted to physically restrain me, and demanded identification under false authority." Karen's legs buckled. She sat right down on the grass. Not dramatic, just stunned. One of the local officers walked over to her and asked her name. "I'm the HOA vice president." She stammered, "I didn't know." She didn't look like a federal agent. You know what the officer said? "That's because they're trained not to. This isn't a movie, ma'am." Meanwhile, the SWAT lead turned to Donnie. "Want to press charges?" She looked at me. I gave her a tiny nod. Not because we're vindictive, but because sometimes people like Karen only learn when actions have consequences. "I'd like to file a report," Donnie said. "Let the local department decide based on the body cam footage and the statement." Karen started sobbing. "I was just trying to protect the neighborhood. I thought she was a threat." One of the neighbors, who we hadn't even spoken to yet, came walking over from his porch and said, "No, Karen, you just wanted to feel powerful." And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the moment HOA Karen realized she was no longer the queen bee. She was just another resident, and one with charges pending. Later that week, we found out she'd been warned before about power tripping on new neighbors. But this time, she messed with the wrong person. The best part? Danny didn't even wear her badge. She didn't need to. The way she handled herself spoke volumes. Quiet strength beats loud entitlement every time. But this story wasn't over, because Karen had a son. And unlike her, he had no idea what he was walking into when he came to defend Mommy Dearest. You'd think after being humbled by a federal agent and nearly face-planting into her own lawn, Karen would have learned her lesson. But no, that kind of entitlement doesn't die easy. And as it turns out, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Enter Kyle, Karen's pride and joy. College dropout turned entrepreneur, always wearing knockoff designer shades and blasting obnoxious music from his lifted truck like he was starring in his own music video. He didn't live in the neighborhood full-time, but when he found out some random woman assaulted his mother, his words, "Not mine," he showed up with a vengeance. Now this wasn't days later. No, Kyle arrived that same evening. And he didn't knock. He rolled into our cul-de-sac like he owned it, parked sideways across 2 driveways, revved his engine, and marched straight up to our door. I was inside with Donnie, sipping coffee and processing the insane events of the day. We heard the truck before we saw it. And then came the banging, not knocking, banging. Danny stayed calm, as always. But I could see it in her eyes. Alert, focused, ready. I opened the door halfway. There he was. 6 feet of poorly disguised rage, vape smoke, and Red Bull energy. "You the guy who harassed my mom?" he snapped. I didn't even respond. Danny stepped up beside me, calm as ever. "I'm the woman your mother unlawfully detained and physically touched," she said. "Care to explain why you're at my door?" Kyle scoffed. "You think you're a cop or something?" "I am something," Donnie replied coolly. "And unless you want to add trespassing to your mom's growing list of HOA violations, I suggest you walk away." But Kyle didn't walk away. He shoved the door open. Bad move. What he didn't realize, and probably still doesn't, is that Donnie was trained in tactical defense and de-escalation. She didn't need to lay a finger on him. The second he crossed the threshold, she calmly said, "You've just committed unlawful entry. You have 5 seconds to remove yourself from this property before I consider you a threat." Kyle puffed his chest. "Yeah, or what?" Danny didn't answer, but the red dot that appeared on his chest did. See, one of the SWAT officers from earlier. He'd been posted down the street, just in case. Donnie hadn't requested it. They just knew people. Like Karen never backed down without backup. The officer calmly stepped into view. Laser sight still centered on Kyle's torso. "Step off the porch, now." Kyle froze, finally realizing this wasn't going to be the easy intimidation win he thought. "I didn't do anything," he protested. The officer replied, "You forced entry into a federal agent's home." Kyle turned white. Literally. He stumbled. backward off the porch and tried to play it cool. I thought this was my mom's house. I was confused. Danny raised an eyebrow. So confused you drove to the right address, banged on the door, and asked about me by name? He didn't answer. The officer stepped forward, cuffed him without a fuss, and read him his rights. Kyle didn't resist. He just kept muttering, "This is stupid. I didn't know. I didn't know." They took him in. Not for long. Charges were light compared to what they could have been. But the record? That's permanent. Criminal trespass. Attempted assault. Obstruction. Karen came out screaming the next morning. "You ruined my son's future." He had a business. Yeah, he was flipping sneakers and crypto. Real Fortune 500 stuff. But the part that really stuck with me. As Karen ranted on the sidewalk, Donnie just stood there, sipping her coffee. No gloating, no comeback, just peace. Karen eventually ran out of steam. She stood there, chest heaving, waiting for some kind of response. Danny finally spoke. "Respect is earned, not demanded. You didn't respect our home. Your son didn't respect boundaries. And now you both have to live with the results." Mic drop. But believe it or not, the community had the final word. Over the next week, neighbors began to speak up. Turns out, Karen had a history harassing delivery drivers, yelling at kids for playing too loudly, fining a 70-year-old for planting unauthorized daisies in her flower bed. And once they saw someone stand up to her and win, the floodgates opened. A petition started to have her removed from the HOA board. Dozens of signatures. Within days, one neighbor even posted doorbell footage of Karen sneaking around at night, taking pictures of people's trash bins, looking for violations. At the next HOA meeting, which Donnie and I attended purely as spectators, Karen tried to regain control. She started shouting about fake agents and misunderstood intentions. That's when the SWAT officer who helped US walked in uniform. Sat down in the back. Karen saw him, froze, and sat down. The board voted. Karen was officially removed from her HOA position. With cause. Her son. Last we heard, he moved out of state, trying to start over. And us, we still live here, happily, quietly, peacefully. Every so often, Donnie takes a walk with Milo past Karen's house. She waves. Karen never waves back. But we're okay with that. Because some people don't need to like you to learn from you. They just need to remember you. And trust me, Karen will never forget the day she screamed, "Show me ID!" and got saluted by a SWAT officer instead.